G'day fellas, and welcome to a casted game. Spawning in on the west side of the map, playing as the English in the colour pink, we've got Edenov 01. And on the east side of the map, playing as the Mongols in the colour orange, it's Recon. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lipany. We're here on the ranked ladder, watching as two players go up against each other, trying to take each other's points from one another. Geez, I've just said a whole bunch of words in a sentence, and I feel like I've said way too much of other, so I do apologize for my excessive use of the word, but this is an interesting matchup because we have got a matchup that at the lower levels is quite Mongol favored, but at the higher levels, it's very much English favored. But before we go any further about that, let's talk a little bit more about our Patreon. We'll be back shortly after this message. Are you keen to get better at Age of Empires 4? Are you interested in watching someone else get coached or getting some one-on-one coaching for yourself? If so, check out the Patreon, where you can find dozens of coaching videos where I personally guide players through the process of improvement, with new videos being added every single week. With coaching for all skill levels and for all civilizations, there's something for everyone. Now, when it comes to my credentials, while I might not be the Red Bull Wololol champion, I'm still a pretty decent skill level, sitting at the Conqueror 3 ranking for 1v1. So if you are interested in some coaching, make sure you check out the Patreon. I'll leave a link in the description. Now let's get back to the action. All right, so this matchup, as I mentioned before, it's a matchup that at the lower level really favors the Mongol player. However, as the matchup gets to the higher level, all of a sudden it becomes much more favored towards the English player. And that's because the Mongols love to do early harassment. Doesn't matter the matchup, doesn't matter the map, they always want to be harassing their enemy. But of course, the English, a civilization very capable of defense. Not only does that town center have extra arrows to be firing down upon its enemy units, but the villagers have got bows. Even though it says that they've got crooks at the moment, which I'm sure is another nice way of saying knife. Now let's talk a little bit about these two players. You guys will be familiar with Recon. Recon attended the Red Bull Wololol. Actually did pretty well at the Red Bull Wololol. Almost got knocked out after the first round. He did have a 2-0 loss against Beastie Cutie, but then he managed to come back through and made it to the top 8. So he had a really nice run there. Definitely better than a lot of people expected. Over on the other side, though, Edenov comes into this match as the underdog. He currently sits on the ranked ladder in the Conqueror ranking. He's sitting just inside the top 200. So not a bad ranking at all, but obviously Recon, an incredibly talented guy. And even though he's got a bit of a tough matchup, I'm sure he is going to be very familiar with this because the Mongols are his favorite civilization. He absolutely loves it. And take a look at this. No aggression whatsoever coming out from him at all. Instead, just focusing intently on getting up to the next stage. And I'm curious what direction he goes here because obviously it's not going to be an aggressive direction. There's a couple of reasons why you don't want to be aggressive in the Dark Age against the English with a barracks. Now, there's always the option to open up with a stable as the Mongols in the Dark Age because they are the only civilization that actually has that bonus or that ability. We can't actually see it because of the Observer UI, but I assure you they can build stables in the Dark Age. So you can always try and look to get in a couple of horsemen over towards your enemy's gold mine or something like that. But realistically, it's probably just not worth it. It's probably just not worth it. Don't bother doing it. Just get up to the next stage yourself. But let's take a little look at the base of Edenov, as it does indeed look like he's heading up to the next stage. Going in with the Council Hall, and quite a quick age up here. Already about 40% through at the 3-minute and 10 mark. He's probably going to be looking for a sub 4-minute age up here, which is interesting considering he's playing against the Mongols. Normally, we would consider the Mongols to be a civilization that has got very good agency. They've got the ability to control the tempo of the game. They've got the ability to make sure... Hello. They've got the ability to choose where they want the game to go. If they go for 2 TCs, well, that's their decision. They can make that. If they want to rush, that's their decision. They've got the agency. They've got the decision-making power. Whereas we see Edenov as the English being like, well, actually, no, it's me. I'm the one that makes the decisions here, and I'm going with the Council Hall, and I'm going to hit you super early. I'm looking forward to seeing what we've got here, because if Edenov is going to be going super aggressive, on the other side, Recon's not going to be able to defend easily here. One of the key differences in this matchup is the Longbowman versus the Archer. The Longbow's got the extra range, it's a little bit slower, and the Archer, for the Mongols, is very fast. It's got YAM network movement speed. It's also got the Explorer movement speed buff, and of course the Archer itself just moves faster than a standard Longbowman. But we do begin to see units now coming out. Looks like a Longbowman is idle at the moment, but an interesting opening. A double broad axe coming out here from Edenov. Now, he hasn't gone for a mill. We don't see any farms coming down just yet, so obviously not going to be any sort of upgrades. So no forest, or not forestry, but no sort of horticulture, no wheelbarrow, no nothing like that, which definitely makes sense. But now we see the longbows moving across the map. Now, of course, he knows exactly what his enemy's up to. He scouted out the trade. So let's talk a little bit about where those trading posts are. Where are they? We've got the first one that's down on this south side of the map, and the second one, which strangely enough seems like it might actually be the safest trade post. You're kind of trading across where your enemy would be here. And I wouldn't be surprised to actually see him trade up towards this position. This isn't actually terrible. Honestly, looking at this, if he puts this on the... You'd probably even want to put it right down here. He might even look to go to the right of his base just to make sure it's as far away as possible. So he's got the best possible route. And I think that's definitely the right thing to do. Have it out here. And now he begins double production of traders any second now. He's got plenty of resources in the bank. Fighting out with the longbowmen. And it looks like it is going to be an archer defense. So going 2x2 with the archers. Yet to actually queue up any traders. Now keep in mind, Mongol trade is one of the strongest in the game. Not only can they make their traders 2x2, but they also make them a lot cheaper. In fact, the second cheapest trader of any civilization. The first one going over to the Abbasid at 80 resources. 90 resources here, though, for the Mongols. Also very fast to trade, or to train, rather. And remember that they can do 2 at a time. So it's kind of like, it doubles up even further. But now we've got double broadaxe coming in. So a trend towards this technology. We're seeing a lot of people look to try and secure it. Outpost with arrow slits, going to try and defend here. Looks like, fortunately, that villager does stay alive. It gets itself into the outpost despite multiple arrows in the air. So nice little disjoint. Khan being very annoying up on the north side, just guarding out the trade line. And we can see here, Edenov is just looking to shut it down, but he might be anchoring. Now, he is aware of the trading post in the north of the map. So he may look to try and shut that down as a potential route as well. But let's see how Recon plays it. We've watched Recon on the Mongols before. One of the things he loves to do with the Mongols is just always leave the Silver Tree as a flex. He doesn't have to go into trade immediately. If it's not safe for him to go into trade, why should he waste money on going into traders? It doesn't make sense. So what does he do? He just chills out for the moment. He just minds his own business, bides his time. And we see he's actually going to be going for a second town center. And I love this. This is such a smart play from him because his enemy's like, well, you're going trade and I'm going to shut you down. And he's like, well, actually, I'm not going trade. I've got the trading landmark, but I'm not going trade. And we actually continue to see this. You know, we see this with Salami, where he goes for the Saharan Trade Network and doesn't trade. And then by the same token, he goes for the Mansa Quarry and then trades on it. So you've always got to be, you always got to watch out for these sneaky little traders. That's the best advice I can give you. But the archer mass is looking pretty solid here for Recon at the moment. Lacking a bit of movement speed, but getting off some decent trades, taking out longbows as he loses archers himself. Does a decent job of picking them off ever so slowly. Stats very similar. The only difference is going to be that extra damage, that extra range, and of course that slower movement speed. They also have an extra cost, the longbowmen. They're a little bit more expensive. But when it comes to the heat of the battle, the extra cost is not something that you're too fussed about or too worried about. Second town center now coming down for Recon, looking all ready to get ahead. We take a look at the base of Edenov. Now keep in mind for the English, there's a lot of ways that you can look to boost up your economy. They've got very effective farms, which means that a villager that's on a farm is not really a villager. It's more like 1.1 villager or even 1.2 villagers. So if you can put 20 villagers on a farm, then technically you're sitting at like maybe 24 villagers. Maybe not technically, but you get where I'm coming from, right? Town center though, it's going to be very quick to make sure that it is, it's going to be very quick to make sure that the economic lead is going in favor of Recon. Let's just put it that way. At the moment, villager count looks pretty similar, 31 versus 30. And still those longbows trading out against the archers. And it never feels good to be the archers in this position. When you're trading longbows v archers, it always feels much better being the longbowman. You always feel like you've got the control. You control when the fight happens. You control where the tempo is. If you want to go balls to the walls, you can do that. And look at this micro right here. Just keeping one of those archers alive on such low health, but of course the Khan comes in, finishes off the job. And still more archers moving out towards this front line. He's got that double broadaxe, so really lending into the power of that double broadaxe. Not only has he gone for the second town centers, but he's also just spamming out archers, which are a very wood-heavy unit. So he's really utilizing this, and now it looks like the villager going to go down, and with that, the forward push going to get shut down completely. Villager count going to be advantaged by Recon now. So he pulls up a little bit. Oh, apologies right there. I was trying to move my knee up on top of my table. I've got this nice little resting position that I put it on. But unfortunately, I banged the table from underneath. I don't know if you guys heard that with my knee. But I'll let you know. I'm all good. I'm healthy. I'm fine. It hurts. It hurts. Somebody call an ambulance. But not for me. No, I'm all good. I'm all good. All right. Well, it looks like we got a stable coming down. Moving into Horseman production. It's going to be looking to pick up the upgrade for the Horseman. Let's take a look over at Edenov and see what he's up to, because he knows the enemy's got that second town center. And he's going to be going for a battering ram. And I always feel cautious about going for a battering ram against the Mongols. I had one bad experience with a battering ram against the Mongols. And, well, let me tell you this much. It involved Benny Hill music. It didn't go well. I was chasing him for a long time. I think that was back in the days when the Mongol town centers were really quick. Like, you could outrun cavalry with Mongol town centers. It's obviously not the case anymore, and he's not even going to be looking to target the town center, but rather instead the outpost, and potentially deny this gold. When it comes to secondary gold for Recon, he's got more up towards the north of his base. Also got villages in the vicinity of a second optional gold. But you can see the way that he's posturing at the moment in a way to defend his gold. So whether it actually achieves much, at this stage it's yet to be seen. But the battering ram will turn its attention towards the town center eventually. Second battering ram now coming up for Edenov. Up to 17 longbowmen. Horseman numbers starting to increase for Recon. Still yet to see a single trader made at this point in the game. Does he even know about the trade? Oh, he doesn't even know where the trading post is in this northern part. He knows where it is on the south side, though. Battering ram comes in undefended. Villager's going to get some free shots here. That's two free volleys. I'll take him. I'll take him. Thank you very much. Town center going to have to move into a more favorable position. And this is the thing about Mongol town centers, right? So he can just cancel these villagers here and just move the town center back over towards this position. And now all of a sudden it's fine. But he needs to back it up soon. He can't be losing the town center. Don't lose it like this, Recon. Recon, you can... This is literally your power. This is your ability. Okay, thank you. Okay. I was a little bit scared there. A little bit worried. He was just leaving it. He was biding his time. Now, I wouldn't even be putting it there. I'd be moving it around over here. He's actually getting focused down by the longbowman. I don't think Edenov realized what could have happened then. He could have 100% taken that out. I guess he's scared of getting pincered. Always an option. Now the main town center. And he just needs to get this bad boy sitting down. Numbers looking solid for Recon. 21 military pop versus 20. No spearman defense at all for Edenov at the moment. He's 100% longbowman. But does have the palings ready, just in case. But with the defensive palings coming in, it's going to mean that his battering rams are unable to push the agenda anymore on the front side. Town center no longer needing a repair. Single villager just tapping away at it. He's going to continue villager production. Already up by 8 villagers. And now moving to the north side of the map. His enemy has no clue. But it is on an attack move. He might even be looking for reinforcements. And he will find them. But decides to walk past them. So here we can... So the decision for him to walk past them right there, to me, indicates that he's almost a little bit scared of this push that's coming. And he's trying to distract his enemy. He's trying to say, hey, don't push. But now he actually spots out the spears. Now, this doesn't really tell him much. Obviously, it tells him that he's got spears. But when it comes to his reaction, what he should do now, I mean, he's already doing everything. He's making the archers. So he's got the counter unit for this. Edenov now, adding in another lumber camp. Has added in more mills. So despite being behind 10 villagers, keep in mind he's got empowered villagers over here on the mill. Extra 20% gather rate for each one of those villagers. So a nice little way to buff up your economy. And look at this. Very smart move by Edenov. He says, well, if my push is coming in on this side, it's highly likely that my enemy might look to trade in the north. So what am I going to do? I'm going to just put a house there. Just keep tabs on it with a house. Very smart move. But the numbers looking solid right now for Recon. He senses that it's time. And he looks towards the south side of the map and says, well, look who it is. And we see that attack, that movement speed arrow going to come through. A little bit of a misfire there onto the deer, unfortunately. He was trying to move his longbowman back, but instead of moving back, they fire at the deer. A little bit of a 2-for-1, unfortunately, for him. And the numbers looking incredibly solid for Recon. The consequence of not bringing down those spearmen. What are they doing back home? Why have you got them at home? And it was all because of that little raid attempt that we saw from Recon. He was just distracting his enemy. And you can see just how smartful, how smart, how wise, what was I going for? How thoughtful? I don't even know what I was going for with the addition of full there. But you can see how intentional it was for that. And the consequence that Edenov gets caught out. He says, oh, that was a bit of a raid. I should make sure I leave units at home. He leaves all the units at home. Dude, if there were 3 spearmen down here, this would have been shut down completely. It would have been another story. All right, let's check in now. No updates regarding the trade just yet. I've actually got really bad tinnitus in my right ear right now. I hope that's not for you guys. I hope that's just for me. I'm gonna try and fix it. Sometimes I can kind of, it gets really, really strong. Okay, there we go. All right. Fortunately, it's not painful and it's very, very intermittent. I barely ever get it, so it's not a big deal when it does happen, but it can be a little bit, what's the word? It can be a little bit discomforting. Let's just put it that way. Second Uvu's now come down, though. A lot of production around this Uvu. And it looks like it's going to be a Castle Age play. So, Recon here just going for a complete trade fade out. But I think that Edenov's been smart in his response to it. He hasn't overcommitted. He went with the early outpost. That was it, just to try and, you know, establish dominance as you typically would as an English player. But that's it. He hasn't overcommitted. You know, I was talking to Salami about some of his trade games, and he's like, he really intentionally plays into the whole I'm making the trade landmark, but I'm not trading thing. He was telling me he played a game against a guy where he went the trade landmark, and the opponent walled in the trading posts and put outposts next to them. And you know what Salami did? He went fast castle, and he absolutely crushed him with the Farimba garrison. So he really plays into it, and I think that Edenov's response has been incredibly measured here against trade. And we can now see the step redoubt coming up for Recon. A complete ignorance to trade. Does not care at all. He says, I'll go for the trade landmark, but it's just there in case. Maybe I want to go trade later in the game. It's there just in case. Until then, he just chills out. He minds his own business. And now that push coming through. Remember, the #1 rule whenever you're raging up is you want to avoid fighting. You do not want to fight unless you have to fight. You need to get those upgrades before you do it. But you can see that there's not a lot of gold right now for Recon. So it's going to take time before he can actually get it. All the upgrades that he needs. Ignoring the men-at-arms, doing the right thing. Needs to be focusing on the longbows completely. He's going to start struggling a little bit here. The extra ranged armor from the men-at-arms going to help out a huge amount here. And now an additional battering ram going to need to be crafted, as the King's Palace actually going up for Edenov behind this. So he himself also looking to age up. Villagers evacuating from the Deer have managed to find a couple of, managed to find a berry bush. He's a happy camper down here. Of course it is Lipany, so the likelihood of finding a berry bush is almost 100% as you continue walking through those forests. But we do see the battering ram coming down now. Once again looking to pressure this area. He's been constantly down here. He suspects there might be trade. That's the way I'm thinking. He's probably like, you know, there could be trade down here. We just want to make sure we keep control of this area. We don't want to let him have control. I think it's a smart move. It's definitely the angle you want to go, especially when you consider he's guarding up this one. This one's fine. This is fine. And remember, you can't wall as the Mongol, so you can't guide your traders in. One of the things I'd love to do here is like wall across like that, and then guide my traders right to the edge. But of course, it's not going to be possible. As the Mongols. More farms going up. Take a look at this. We're up to 24 farms now for our English player. Quite a fair bit. House going to be under attack. Recon's finally found trade. The trading post to the north has been discovered. But we see more outposts coming up. He's setting up for trade. He's setting up for trade. This is it. The villager count, he's got about a 25 villager lead at the moment, which is already incredibly substantial. The English player is just aged up. It's quite a late age up, about the 18-minute mark, which means that he's going to be behind for close to 10 minutes on that second town center. And that's where you start to see that huge villager difference. Every minute, 3 villagers coming out of the town center. So that means after 10 minutes, you're going to have a 30 villager advantage. Battering ram begins the slow push. Second ram enters onto the scene. From the depths, from the shallows. That is a lot of palings. I feel like that... Something about that number of palings just makes me think, I think that's too many. I think that might be too many palings. You probably didn't need to bring all that wood. I would have reduced the cost down a little bit. Look at the longbow shredding through the men-at-arms, though. Completely uncontested. At the same time, he's taking out the battering rams with the cavalry. So a nice little decent bait there. Needs to be focusing the archers on the backside. Instead, intent focusing on the front. We can see +2 still yet to come through for Recon. And continues kiting away. Definitely the correct play here. And now Edenov looking to head in with his own men-at-arms. No armor cladding just yet for him. The English, famous for their men-at-arms because of that armor cladding. And look at the damage coming out from those veteran longbows. The +2 range attack going to be more than enough to pick off those lancers. And relics now getting picked up all across the map. Up towards the north. Down towards the south, the villager begins walling for Edenov. And the longbow position looks solid. Recon may need to move into siege if he wants to maintain the integrity of his front base. Otherwise, he may have to think about greener pastures. Let's take a look and see whether we've got any trade through just yet. Still doesn't look like it. But he's secured the trade line, and he's got the YAM network out as well. Which means that he should be covered for the majority of that trade line. Towards the north, though, he's also got coverage. A great job extending that YAM. But under real pressure now. His villagers looking to evacuate this southern part of his base. He just moves to the other side of the woodline. He's like, yeah, you know what? I think I'm fine over here. I'm just gonna pick up and yeah, all right, I'll see you guys on the other side. And he's actually fine. Not a problem. Tier 2 upgrades now coming through as well for Recon. Looking to pick up absolutely everything. Big Mangonel shot on the men-at-arms, though. Had he gone a little bit longer, hit those longbows, it might have been a different story. They do have a healing circle. I was going to say sealing circle. That is incorrect. Men-at-arms. He's still yet to pick up that armor cladding. You can see it coming through now. Also looking to pick up +2 ranged armor. These guys only do 8 damage. So already doing very low amounts of damage. Focusing that Mangonel, trying to take out that Mangonel. Look at him go. The Mangonel survives. The Mongol Mangonel is what you need to fear. And now the lack of crossbows is beginning to hurt Edenov. The Khan goes down. But the position looks very defensible for Recon here. We need to start seeing additional units coming out from Edenov. He can't keep pretending that it's age 2. I love men-at-arm and longbow just as much as the next guy, but we're in the third age here now, Edenov. Let us see some knights. Let us see some crossbows. Because your enemy is making almost completely armored units here. And you're going to need something to cut through this. The longbows, they're just not going to cut it, unfortunately. Look at the armored numbers. He's got to get out of here right now. He needs to get out of here. Very fortunately, Recon heads back the other way. And he is playing with fire right now, Edenov is. This is a lot of armored units. Still no trade for Recon. We enter the 23rd minute of this game. And still no trade. Good night, sweet prince. The shaman gets sniped out. Archer sniping looking pretty solid here. I love the way that he's just picking off the individual units, focusing them down. He knows the right time to fall back as well. Armor cladding has come through. Needs to be mixing in like spears or crossbows or knights or something to deal with these lancers. I don't know what Edenov's doing. The knights just completely clash or crash through his entire force here. He's going to try and make men-at-arms work, but the knights are just so good against them. They just cut through that armor. Now Villager getting in on the action as well. He continues kiting back away from his enemy. But the armored numbers are just too solid. He's not able to out-damage the production of his enemy. And sure, he's killing units, but Recon's replacing them faster than Edenov can kill them. And now the Mangonel begins rolling towards his enemy. A giant ball of death right now. And finally, do I see crossbows? I thought I saw a crossbow. No, I didn't see a crossbow. I thought I saw a crossbow. I didn't though. Look at the villager. What a giga never mind. Never mind. Never mind. She was trying. She was trying. She was doing a good job. Until the incident happened. What did you just say? I swear I heard something. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the replay. What's the time of this? 24:30. I gotta go listen to that again. I thought I heard something coming out of that villager's mouth. I'm not gonna repeat it for dare of fear of being cancelled. But outpost now coming up. This will give him a solid defensive position. Also gets the springled. Really good spot. Needs to bring this Springald back, though. And indeed, he does look to do it. Get off my screen, Uvu. Longbow's looking to focus down. The Knights needs to hit the Knight before the charge lands. It's a lot of damage that comes in. Manages to take it out. Needs to bring this back around. And does the right thing. Recon up by quite a lot of score here. That second town center finally paying dividends. But now, unfortunately, the Springald on the front line gets taken out once again by the Knights. Beautiful micro here from Recon as well. And just a continued lack of crossbows. Finally, we see crossbows coming through. 2 crossbows are created. But the Mangonel shot hits, and it's huge damage. I feel like it's just too late right now for Edenov. We should have had crossbows 7 minutes ago, 8 minutes ago. And this push is so solid. How does Recon lose from this position? Do we have trade yet? Don't tell me we've got no trade yet, Recon. The whole thing I wanted this game was trade. That's all Edenov wanted. He wanted to shut down your trade. He never got the option because he never went for it. But I think that's part of the play. It's a trade fake out. The way that you think about it. The same way that we were talking about with Salami. It's that whole idea that you're going for a certain type of strategy. And it's interesting because he still went for a boom. And yet the response from the enemy was just lacking. He was able to outboom his enemy. He telegraphed his strategy. And now he's reaping the rewards. Recon's still up about 24 villagers. Edenov's maintained parity with that second town center. But of course, in the scheme of things, doesn't mean much when you're up 24 villagers and finally your enemy adds in that second town center. Mangonel manages to stay alive. 22 health on it. Finally, the crossbows are out here on the field. And Edenov looking to hold on a bit longer. Macro starting to fall apart, as it would be when you're under pressure like this. Don't dare look at the other side. 66 villagers at the moment on wood for Recon. A huge amount. Both of these guys focused intently on this battle at hand. And the Knights continue to move forward with the crossbow numbers building. He's up to 10 crossbows, finally. Finally adding in the crossbows. But is it too little too late? Walls down to the south side have been compromised. Not to mention the front of the base. Is he trading? Is he trading? He's not even trading. He's not even trading. He just moved the landmark to the corner and doesn't trade. What are you doing, Recon? Don't do me like that. You can't be faking me out like that. I can't believe this. He's literally moving the... I feel like I'm being baited now. The landmark, the trade landmark gets moved to the corner. And I think at this point, it's just irrelevant, right? Like, it doesn't matter. You're on 125 villagers. You're steamrolling over the top of your enemy. There's no real way that they're going to hold this position. Like, realistically, what's the way that Edenov holds this? There's nothing. I've genuinely got nothing. The composition is too diverse. There's men-at-arms. There's lancers. Springalds to deal with any kind of siege. Archers together with crossbows. So, horsemen, maybe? Is it a mass horseman switch that takes this out? Because you're missing spearmen? But even then, it's going to take you so long to get any potential horsemen out. And the men-at-arms are going to be so tanky anyway. A Mangonel's going to get killed by the Springalds. Could you potentially go for a keep? Maybe? I don't know whether we've got improved siege engineering, actually. Let's double check and see if we can find the blacksmith. We do have improved siege engineering, so he could just make trebuchets. And he does go for a keep. So he looks to try and get a keep up. But the problem that he's going to have is, well, don't mention the Mangonels. The issue that he's going to have is that right now, Recon can just fall back and make trebuchets just over here, where his outposts are. But it looks doubtful that the keep is going to get up anyway. And good game does get called. Edenov going to be tapping out here. Recon going to be victorious with a complete trade fake out. He faked me out. He faked Edenov out. I'm still asking for the trade. I'm kind of upset that we didn't get it. I'm going to be honest with you, Recon. I was expecting trade. Anyway, fellas, I hope you guys have enjoyed this caster game, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.